welcome to Still Speak Podcast. I was not going to speculate much on the case of missing 22-year-old Gabby Petito at this time because I really wanted to stick to focusing on the details and getting those details out there to be a help to her parents. But holy smokes, I was working on an update video that I already recorded, and it's on the channel. If you've not seen it, go take a listen to it. But as I was working on notes for the update video, I was looking at the notes from my first video about this case and, kind of comparing the two. And something popped out at me. And then another thing popped out at me. And then another. There are three things in total. Moab, Utah, August 13th, and Arches National Park. Now, why did this stick out to me? Okay. Well, I'll get to that. But first, I got to tell you about another story. What I'm going to share next absolutely may not, hear me, may not be connected in any way, shape, or form. But I have to share it because it's just so bizarre. We may find out later that it's connected, but as of now, we can just file it under highly suspicious coincidence. And at the end, I'm going to give a little bit more information on Gabby's timeline and what have you, because information is rapidly unfolding and it's, feels like every few minutes something else is being said or coming out, and I'm trying to keep up with, social media and what the news is saying and what have you. It's a lot. When a story breaks like this, it's always like complete chaos in the beginning. And so let's get to it. I heard about a story involving a newlywed couple being murdered around the time that I started this channel. And it was around the time that I was getting my ducks in a row about starting this channel, which was taking up a lot of time. And so I didn't get a good chance to dig into that case. But here's the story. On August 18th of this year, 2 bodies were found off a scenic road in Utah. The bodies were later identified to be the bodies of Kylan Schulte, 24 years old, and Crystal Turner, also known as Crystal Beck, 38 years old. The couple had gotten married in April of 2021. The women had been shot, and it was determined to be a homicide. Schulte and Turner were undressed from the waist down when they were found. The warrant says there were gunshot wounds on the backs, sides, and or chests of the victims. The couple were from Arkansas and Montana, but had been living and working in their van-turned-camper in Moab, Utah. The couple had no family nearby. A family friend named Cindy Sue Hunter lived close to the women, much closer than their families did, and she was the one to actually find the women deceased. Kylan Schulte's father, Sean Paul, had begged for help finding his missing daughter on Facebook, and at the time of his post, the woman had been missing for 4 days. Kylan's aunt said, quote, Friday evening, they were with friends and told them that there was a creepy guy at their campsite. Just that the guy was creeping them out, so they might have to move, unquote. And she's referring to Friday the 13th of August. The women were last seen leaving a tavern in Moab. In a social media post, the owner of the tavern stated that the women were there on that August 13th. On August 15th, neither Schulte nor Turner showed up for work, and they did not call in, and that's something that family members say was very unlike them. And then the 18th is when they were found deceased. Cindy Sue, the family friend of the Schulte family, said that when she saw Kylan's father's post, she knew she had to help, so she immediately packed her car up and set out to find them, thinking maybe police missed something. She checked the McDonald's where one of the women worked, and they also had been keeping their camper van there. She did see the van, and she did see a Harley motorcycle that they owned. She then checked remote roads, looked over cliffs, and hiked as much as she could. feeling a deep sense of urgency to find them. She also talked to campers along the way, and she followed her intuition until she saw a flash of silver out of the corner of her eye. It was the couple's silver van. It was actually a Kia Sorento. Quote, things didn't look right. The tent door wasn't closed, and there were things laying all over the campground, unquote, she had said. And she found Kylan's bunny, Ruth, that had run out of water and food and was in her cage. Hunter immediately called the police and then waited. After the police were able to pinpoint her location, she then called Kylan's father. Quote, in the 5.5 years I've lived here, my phone has never worked in those mountains, and it worked in every location that day, unquote. While she was on the phone with Kylan's father, she ends up walking a little further up, and she saw the arms and torso of Schulte, and that was all she needed to see to identify her. She ran back to her car, locked the doors, and drove to the main road, afraid for her safety, but not wanting the police to miss the site at the same time. Investigators did seize the Kia Sorento that the women were found in, as well as a 1987 Ford van that was towed from a Moab parking lot. In the van, they reportedly found a journal, a Bible, newspaper clippings, and pay stubs for the victims. And I found that really fascinating and sweet, because I didn't even know people still clipped newspapers. I thought that was really, I don't know, sweet. It just stuck out to me. In the day and age of digital, footprints of news, I don't know many people who actually still do that, and I kind of dig that. This is not the only tragedy to strike the Kylan Schulte family. They also lost Kylan's brother 6 years ago when someone also shot him and killed him in 2015 at the young age of 15. The family did have a GoFundMe to raise funds to get Kylan back to Montana to lay her to rest with her brother. It's been a month almost, and I'm sure she's been laid to rest already. No one has been arrested in the case, and 2 private citizens have offered $10,000 each for any tips that leads to an arrest. The warrant reportedly says, quote, investigators were informed that Kylan had mentioned to her friends that if something happened to them, that they were murdered. Kylan had continued by saying there was a creepy man around their camp and they had felt intimidated by him, unquote. The Grand County Sheriff's Office has stated investigators believe this was an isolated incident and they don't believe there's a threat to the public, which really doesn't make any sense, because they also said they don't believe it to be a murder-suicide, but a homicide. So how is there no longer a danger to the public? You have 2 dead people and you don't have a suspect. And it seems that the residents of this area were highly concerned about this, because the sheriff's office ended up releasing a statement, quote, we understand that our community has questions and that many of you don't feel safe given the terrible circumstances of this crime. Please understand this is an active investigation being led by detectives with the Grand County Sheriff's Office. All active investigations are sensitive, and the premature or inappropriate release of information can have devastating results, including making it difficult or impossible to successfully prosecute the case, unquote. This doesn't really address the fact that there's no, they say that there's no threat. But what they did say is true, and most cases they remain tight-lipped because they want to be careful, so they, can prosecute. However, anyways, Arches National Park is, according to Google, 5 miles north of Moab, Utah. This is where you need to follow me because it may get a little confusing, okay? But I'm about to tell you why those 3 things stuck out to me and how it connects to Gabby and Brian. Gabby and Brian were also in Arches National Park on August 12th. And on the 13th, Gabby posted their next location would be Moab, Utah. This puts the couple in the same national park on the same weekend as Kylan and Crystal. Tell me that's not crazy. Okay. Kylan and Crystal mentioned the quote-unquote creepy man on the 13th. And on the 14th, that was the last time that anyone heard from the couple before their bodies were discovered on the 18th. But hold up a minute, because here where it gets intense. The stepfather of Gabby, his brother, so her uncle via her mother's marriage, put up a paper on a public post of a timeline, some little notes of the timeline. And he kind of like scribbled them down on a piece of paper, took a picture of it and posted it. And on this paper, it says that there was a domestic reported on 8/12. It doesn't say anything else than that. It doesn't, say Gabby and Brian. It just says domestic reported 8/12. Another note said that Brian left. And went to Florida on 8/13 and stayed until 8/23. So 10 days. And as a reminder, the last confirmed location of Gabby was checking out of a Salt Lake City, Utah hotel on the 24th. This is about a little bit over 3 hours from where they were. So the 24th is also when her mother last FaceTimed with her, and the note ends with saying that on the 25th is when Gabby was in Grand Teton National Park. And then it says on the 27th, texts were received from whom they thought to be Gabby, but now they wonder if it was not her. Also on the 27th, Gabby had talked to a friend through Snapchat saying that she was headed to Yellowstone. And the last note says that on the 27th, the last text from her phone said there was no service in Yosemite. Now, that national park is not where they were at. That's in California. So I think he just jotted down the wrong thing, because it does say on the same notepad that she had told a friend she was headed to Yellowstone. And we do know that she was in the area of Yellowstone. So I just think that the uncle miswrote that. It's creeping me out a little bit. I'm not going to lie. It is. This is really strange. Actually, all day I've been thinking about this since spotting it in my notes and recalling this story of Kylan and Crystal, and I thought, you know what, nah, can't be. And then I checked the stories against one another, and it lines up. All four were in Arches National Park the day Crystal and Kylan told friends about a creepy man on the same day that Brian allegedly, and I say allegedly because these are just notes that the uncle shared and it's not confirmed fact, but the day Brian went back to Florida, if it's true, that's really odd. I can't deny that. It may mean absolutely nothing, nada, zip, zilch, but it's hell of a coincidence. That being said, though, when I first learned of this story about Gabby, and it mentioned her staying in a hotel, I thought, that's weird, because the whole idea was that they were staying in this van on their cross-country, trip. So, the fact that she stayed in this hotel in the Salt Lake City area, which is, about 3 hours away from Moab area, and then Brian flying back to Florida for 10 days. I mean, what? Why? Why did he return, and why did he go back? Were they communicating during this time? is this domestic reported about Gabby and him? Or is this just a domestic that was reported in that area at that time? And, him flying back to Florida for 10 days, is this true? Did he seriously leave for 10 days? Because I think that's really important information to know, you know what I mean? So I hope that we can get that confirmed soon. This story is getting so intense, and it's just really fluid right now. It's just unfolding so rapidly I can barely keep up. I have children and I homeschool, so by the time I can throw together notes and fact check and get my thoughts together to record it, it just takes so much time. I literally wanted to put this out earlier, and I'm just now getting to it, and it is 10 o'clock my time. By the time you see this, it will be much later because I have to put it together and upload it. Anyways, Nicole Schmidt, which is Gabby's mother, recently said, quote, "We are looking for her. We're not focusing on anything else but finding her. I believe she's going to come home," unquote. And Gabby's father, Joseph, told WPTV that he was going to do whatever it takes to find her. Quote, "Pride isn't an issue right now. My only daughter is missing," unquote. And then he said, quote, "I'm going to do, the family, Gabby's mom, we're going to do anything we can to find her," unquote. I've been wondering for the last 2 days since hearing this story, why did he return home to Florida with the van? Like, if something did happen, right? They had a fight, he left her, or he hurt her, whatever. We don't know. I'm not accusing you, Brian. Relax. He was already on this cross-country road trip, and he could have easily vanished, right? Nobody really knew his whereabouts except for what he was documenting. He could have just stopped doing that and disappeared. Although that does take resources, specifically financial resources. Gabby's father does not live far from his daughter, so at some point he would have seen that van was there and that he had not heard from his daughter. But this can explain why Brian lawyered up right after returning. He likely had that same thought that the father would eventually see this van, and he wanted to get a head start, so got a lawyer. I don't know. I'm not going to accuse him. I'm not going to jump to conclusions either. I don't do that. I don't get emotionally heated over cases, and I like to wait for facts to unfold. And, I actually covered on this channel a few cases where someone was accused of, murder, and it turned out that they were not the ones who did it. And so I'm a firm believer that we need to wait before we start, running around screaming someone's guilt and accusing them of murder. That being said, in this circumstance, he still left her regardless. He's connected in some way. It's really grueling to watch this unfold and see these parents desperately trying to get her name out there. And the one that, may know where she is, at least the last place that she was, is Brian. And he's not willing to give them even that. At least not yet. Let's hope he does the right thing. So, while in most cases, I would say, wait, just wait, no, maybe she went here, maybe she was taken, maybe, and I go through all the different scenarios, because that's what I do. In this one, I'm struggling, because this is not a usual circumstance. People don't typically go on these cross-country months on end, trips, and they were together, and they left together, and they were together all this time, and then she doesn't return. So it's really hard not to look at Brian in a bad way, right? Because it's like, all right, bro, she was with you, and now she's not. And you guys were out in all these national parks and all these mountains and hiking trails. Like, where is she? So anyway, Like I said, I made an update video about Gabby earlier today, and shortly after I shared that, in that video was actually a statement from the Laundrie family, so Brian's family, that they made through the lawyer, not that they made through themselves. And as soon as I clicked upload on the update video, of course, the family of Gabby released a response to their statement. And what I did was, at that moment, because I already had uploaded the update, and I was starting to make dinner, my house was loud and everybody was screaming and yelling and what have you, I decided to just throw the statement up on the screen, add some music to it, because I wanted to get it out to everybody as quickly as possible. And so I didn't actually speak in the video. It's just the picture of their statement, so I apologize for that. It was just in that moment, I just was like, I'm not going to make a whole nother video again after I just uploaded this. So since I did that, what I want to do here, and I'm going to leave it at this, is I'm going to actually read you the statement from Gabby's parents. And that will be that, and we'll end there. So, hang on. The Schmidt and Petito family are going through the worst moments of their lives. Their beautiful 22-year-old daughter is missing, and the one person that can help find Gabby refuses to help. Brian Laundrie was traveling with Gabby in the Grand Teton Yellowstone area. They were traveling together in Gabby's 2012 Ford Transit van. That is where we believe Gabby was last seen. Brian is refusing to tell Gabby's family where he last saw her. Brian is also refusing to explain why he left Gabby all alone and drove her van back to Florida. These are critical questions that require immediate answers. The Schmidt and Petito family beg the Laundrie family to not remain in the background, but to help find who Brian referred to as the love of his life. How does Brian stay in the background when he is the one person that knows where Gabby is located? The Schmidt and Petito family implore Brian to come forward and at least tell us if we're looking in the right area. So that's where it stands as of now, and of course I'll be following and waiting for more updates. When I think I have enough updates to make a video, I'll do that to let you know what's going on. I know sometimes this is easier for people than to go and look at all this stuff yourself, especially right now when a case is in the beginning phase. The groups are just wild. There's just chaos and like so many questions and speculation, and you're like digging through to like catch up, and you have work and you have kids and you have a life, and it's hard to, really get the story down and figure out what's true, what's not true, what's a rumor, etc. And so I'm hoping that videos like this, where I take the time to do all of that for you and I can compile it in this video, it saves you time. Definitely doesn't save me time, but that's okay. Until next time, I'll see you soon. Psych. Yeah, it's me again. I had to add this to the end because after I recorded, more information came out, and I was not going to re-record that again. So I'm just going to add it to the end and hope that you guys stuck around long enough to catch this at the end. So in the last part that we just talked about, I was saying that Gabby's uncle had a note, and on this note he wrote down that there was a domestic reported on August 12th. And I was saying that there was no other specific details about this particular event, and that maybe it didn't have to do with Gabby and Brian. Well, it does. So, Utah police have confirmed that officers were called for an incident involving Brian Laundrie and Gabby Petito roughly 2 weeks before she was last seen and a month before she was officially reported missing. Quote, our officers did respond to an incident involving Brian Laundrie and Gabrielle Petito on August 12, 2021. However, neither Brian or Gabrielle were the reporting party. Moab Chief of Police Brett Edge told Fox News Tuesday officers conducted an investigation and determined that insufficient evidence existed to justify criminal charges, unquote. I might sound a little down. Well, here's my issue. It's not that one or the other called on the other. So it's not like Gabby called on him or he called on her. I probably wouldn't be as concerned if that was the case. I mean, maybe I would, but I wouldn't be as uneasy as I feel right now. Because couples do that, right? Some couples, not us, not my house, but some couples do that. And so, you're fighting, and just to kind of get the other one, you call the police, etc., right? This is that somebody witnessed or was in the vicinity of them, and it's either that they were highly disruptive enough for them to call, or there was some type of argument that was concerning enough for them to call. And so it does make me feel sadness for Gabby, because I don't know how this, if at all, plays into how she's missing, because she didn't go really missing until about 2 weeks later, but obviously it's a part of the story, and it's what was happening leading up to her disappearance. So I'm just kind of curious now where this comes into play, because again, it was also written on the letter that Brian went back to Florida the next day on August 13th for 10 days. What is going on? Where is Gabby? This poor family. So I'm going to go again for now, because watch, as soon as I'm done recording this one, something else is going to come out. But you won't hear from me again until tomorrow, if so, because I'm going to bed. Until next time, I'll see you soon.